welcome to episode 7 of Digital Escapism. We are glad you can join us today. We have got a lot of ground to cover today. So much stuff has happened in the last week.
Not much.
So much stuff has happened, man. It's like, you've got to find the time today, to be honest with you. Most importantly, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter. It's DE_podcast. We've had a lot of love this past week. We've actually got, 1,200 followers in a week? I'm pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we lit as
Yeah,
well.
we don't want to brag, but we're pretty proud of that. You can find us on Facebook, and you can also head over to our website, which Bossman Joe's getting all up and ready at the moment, with a bit of a refresh. It's digitalescapism.co.uk. As always, I'm your host, Greg, and I'm joined by my co-host here, Mr. Jack Folkard.
Thank you, Greg, and thank everyone for listening.
I'm also joined by Chris over in the corner.
Hello, everybody.
And my main man, Tom.
Hi, Greg. How you
Mr.
doing?
Triple A himself. I'm doing good. And we've also got our sound engineer, Joe, who will intermittently come in when he feels like it, because he's busy playing around with all the buttons and the dials. So let's go straight into it and cover news today. We have got so much to cover on the news, but I think, Jack, you kind of approached me before we started setting up today and said that you wanted to talk about Splatoon.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't have news. I have dissatisfaction with the most recent beta of Splatoon. So I've never played Splatoon before, but I thought since I got a Switch, and since it was a big game on the Wii U, I was going to get into this beta. Now this beta released on the 24th of March, okay, which is a Friday. Now what would you assume that the time frame of that beta would be?
Probably the weekend.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Who wouldn't think that? What like-minded person wouldn't think that if a beta released on a Friday that you'd be able to play it all weekend? That's not the case.
What did you get, an hour?
You got
An hour of playtime?
You absolutely did. Would you like to hear the play times that you could have logged on to play the
Yeah,
beta?
go on.
You could have, on Friday, you could have played it from 7 to 7:59 in the afternoon. On Saturday, you could play it 3 in the morning until 3:59 in the morning. You could play it 11 till 12, and then again at 7 to 8. And then on Sunday, which is the only day I had free, you could play it 4 in the morning until 4:59 in the morning, or you could play it 12 till 1.
What the hell? Why are they doing that?
I don't know. I should have looked into it more, really, considering I'm bringing it up in a video game podcast. I was just upset, Greg.
That's really strange.
I just wanted to play Splatoon, and I couldn't. I couldn't find the time. I was only free on Sunday, and I couldn't find the time to allow myself to sit down and play it between 12 and 12:59. And I'm not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to play Splatoon. I barely get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work. So I
Hey,
hate
Jack.
going to work.
What's Splatoon?
Splatoon is a video game.
Which is...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what is it? I've never heard of it
It's
before.
Wii's version of Call of Duty, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Call of
With-
Duty for kids with
Yeah, I was
cartoons
gonna
where
say,
you
it sounds
colour
like-
things with paint and you
Basically,
run around on a map. It's like a multiplayer.
Oh,
yeah.
The
okay.
idea is
Shooter.
you would hate it, Tom. It's
Yeah.
a game that you would absolutely despise.
It sounds shit.
You play as a squid girl or a squid boy who has a paint gun, and the object of the game is
He
to
was
cover.
a squid girl, she was a squid boy.
Can I make it any more obvious?
And the object of the match is to cover the area with the most paint of your specific colour, and you can shoot people and blow them up.
Spaff all over the map, cover
yeah.
it in your colour.
That's the general vibe. But that was my dissatisfaction. I just wanted to air that and let Nintendo know, because I'm sure they're listening. I'm sure they listen to the podcast every week.
Yes, definitely.
As with Sony and Microsoft, probably in their pyjamas.
Do you know,
I mean-
do you know, to me, personally, that sounds like they've just completely bodged it. It sounds like they wasn't ready to put out a beta, but they kind of wanted to. But they were at an awkward point where they didn't want to really put out the beta because people would see that it wasn't ready, or perhaps,
This game is primarily aimed at children. What kid is going to be up at 3 in the morning to play Splatoon? And I had to double check. I was like, surely that can't be 3 in the morning. It must be 3 in the morning and 4 in the morning.
It all depends what it was for. I think the problem that you're seeing at the moment with a lot of betas and alphas is there's not a lot of communication as to why the beta is out and why the alpha is out and what it is that they're wanting to track, what it is that they're wanting to test. And I do feel that's indicative to their flaws, not ours, because they need to be aware that not everyone works within the industry, not everyone understands the purpose or the difference between an alpha, a closed alpha, and then a beta, and then an open beta. So I think probably what they're lacking, if you couldn't find it, through their website or a simple search is probably a bit of communication to say, oh, actually we're just testing server capacity, but if you want to try and play this, you can pop on for an hour. I don't know what they were testing, but all I'm saying is that it might have been more beneficial for them to actually...
They're testing Jack's patience here.
That is
This man is angry.
That is a well-worded response. Nintendo, please release a game with more viable timeframes, or send me a copy of the game. I'm very interested in Splatoon. I'd love to get into it and probably get Tom to play it with me so we can moan about it.
Well, Joe's just got a Switch, so maybe you and Joe can play Splatoon together.
Yeah, definitely get a bit of Splatoon.
Sounds like a fun game. So we've got that out of the way. So now what I want to jump to is a big one.
Jesus Christ, it's happened.
It is like the coming of Christ, the second coming.
I'm loving the look of Tom's face. It's like, I do not give a fuck about Destiny 2.
Destiny 2. We've all been waiting for it.
We all have.
The player base is huge. Now, aside from Tom, myself, Jack, Chris, Joe, absolutely played the arse off of this game. We really, really enjoyed it. Me, Jack and Joe as well sort of got involved in some of the raids towards the end, which was really, really enjoyable.
We played those raids to death.
What basically they're saying is the release date now is the 8th of September this year. You can pre-order it to receive the beta, and there's also been another leak about DLCs that have been planned. So there's a DLC 1 that's planned for winter 2017 and DLC 2 that's planned for spring 2018. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I think that... do you know what I'm looking forward to this time, actually, the most? I'm looking forward to a smoother launch. I think when Destiny was first announced, it was such an original... The original Destiny I'm talking about now. It was such an original, unique concept that it was very hard for the developers to explain, and that led to people hyping it up and getting the wrong idea about what it was actually about and what it was actually like, which then, to no fault of their own, led to some people being disappointed because it wasn't what they was expecting it to be. I think now, with this one coming out, we know exactly what it's going to be. We've had one before. There's not that confusion in the air about what it is, so I think it would be nice to get that elephant out the room straight away. And I hope that will lend itself to a more smoother launch for the game.
What are you hoping to see in the game? What are you hoping that they've kind of taken from the first game, that they've listened to the feedback of the fans, and that they're going to include in this one?
Well, for me personally, and I was saying this earlier during the week, for me that game's all about the moment-to-moment gameplay. Like, the other stuff that is there is nice, the levelling, the fluffing up, the earning better gear and all that. That's all nice, but really at its core, it's for me all about the moment-to-moment gameplay. It's about how the shooting feels, the feedback you get from the guns, the way it all works. It just, when you're in the moment fighting, it's great. And so I think if they can just, it's Bungie. They're great at getting the first-person mechanics right, so that their shooters feel great. Fundamentally, they feel great. And as long as they can keep that going into Destiny 2, I'll be happy with that. One thing I would like to see, I'd like to see perhaps a more open environment. I know the other ones were sort of open world, but you were kind of channeled through corridors.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, the instance was very specific, the route that you had to go, and then ultimately they'd opened into sort of maybe larger chambers.
That's
but
right,
it was not very sort of open. It was very closed with regards to. There were some open areas that you could kind of bum around in, wasn't there, in the world? But because you're doing a lot of the activities repetitively, so you're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, it did feel that some of the locations got old really, really quickly. To me it did, especially when you're doing dailies. It felt like there was a lot more space required to kind of keep it fresh with regards to the levels and stuff like that.
And I think another area that they could improve in was the... do you remember the world events? So you'd be sort of walking through the open world and something would crash down.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was like everyone rallied to this point and you ended up fighting whatever it was off together with a bunch of strangers that decided to turn up and help. I'd love to see that sort of thing expanded into more of an MMO frame where you have kind of events, perhaps monthly events or whatever, and it's right, on this day, at this time, this thing's going to crash land at this place. Get as many people there as you can. It's going to be like an epic war or whatever. I'd love to see that sort of thing incorporated into it.
What about you, Jack? What are you hoping that they're going to kind of learn from the first game and bring into this new one, Destiny 2?
Well, what I think they need to really focus on, which I think is what they're going to improve upon, because they were doing it really well towards the end of Destiny 1's life cycle, is to really highlight the benefits of doing these specific tasks that they would give you, and you would have to ultimately repeat, and explain to you how you get good gear properly, and make sure that earning the gear is rewarded correctly. Like when we originally played Destiny 1, getting those engrams was a fucking nightmare. When you would get like purple engrams that would come back and they'd be like, no, that's just a green weapon.
Do you remember the loot cave and the RNG?
I did that to death. I did that literally to death. You know what? That's part of this game, which I think that they are definitely going to have down on lock, because that was such a big concern of the original Destiny, that they had to correct it then and there on the game.
The problem is though, you've got to have a balance of the two. So don't get me wrong, I completely agree with what you're saying there. But
absolutely,
when you're doing when you're doing the raids, people will go, "Oh, bloody RNG! I didn't get that chest piece that I've been getting." And I know that I probably am in that camp, and there's probably loads of examples when we've done a raid and I've been like, oh, for God's sake, I've not got it on the right light level. Don't get me wrong, it can be adjusted, but the RNG of it is what makes it more fun when you get that complete set. If everything's given to you on a plate, and people tend to forget that, it completely takes all the fun away from running around with that full set of top tier, high-end, high light level gear. That's what I think personally. But for me, I'm hoping, me personally, that they bring a more coherent story to the game. I need to be brought into a world, and one of the things that Destiny got right is exactly what Chris said. The gameplay was so spot on, and it was so enjoyable, and it was so easy to form a party and run together as a group, and that, in my opinion, doesn't need adjusting in the slightest. But I lost count of the amount of times that we'd be playing and I'd be going to Joe, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah.
And Joe would be going, well, if you go online and you click on these Grimnor cards, they give you a bit more. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, they make it, because you're playing it with your friends, so you don't know what your other friends are going to be doing or where they're going to be at in the game. They make the storytelling and how you learn things about the world much more interactive. So if you want to find out about who these guys are and why they're attacking, you go to their designated planet and look for the Grimoire cards, and you expand it. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it is a hard thing for them to do. And I appreciate it is a hard thing for them to do when you're going to have a game with like 4 people on chat, like talking shit and trying to play the game and coordinate their attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think that I need to understand a bit more what I'm doing as the game's going by.
I mean, maybe I'm an old man, but I just love a cutscene.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with a good old-fashioned cutscene?
Nothing.
Like, you did this to me, this is why I'm going to kill you now. And then it gives you a bit of ethos, like, right, I'm going to fucking kill this guy. We're going to go hell to leather and we're going to down this boss.
I think that they addressed that criticism really well in the Taken King DLC. I don't know if anyone's here has played that.
Yeah, I played the Taken King, and you're right. It did have a big lot of improvements on the Taken King.
It actually had a story, and like you say, it had cutscenes as well.
Yeah.
And it in one fell swoop, it massively addressed that for me. I know that it come later and it was DLC, and it probably was them reacting to people's criticisms. But I thought it was a good step in the right direction in terms of the story.
As someone who was late to the Destiny, so I should point out that all of the guys around the room got it at launch.
Yeah.
I was probably a little bit later because I was just picking up a PS4.
I didn't get it at launch.
Because you're a scrub.
No, we're going to get round to you in a minute.
Okay.
Don't panic.
Please.
You're going to have your
Falling
5
asleep
minutes.
over here.
Wait your damn turn.
Yeah. So one of the things I should point out is obviously that I didn't get it straight from the start, but the important thing for me with regards to the story is what I'd read online, and I know that this sometimes isn't the greatest way to get your opinion about things, but I had read that a lot of content had been stripped out of the game.
Yeah.
And then it was almost sold back to you as DLC, and the game felt disjointed, the vanilla game, and fragmented in essence.
The reason they did that is because Peter Dinklage, who was the original voice of the Ghost, he went in there, he did the voice of the Ghost, and then as he was leaving, he stole all the story stuff. He stole all the scripts, and he was like, fuck you guys, I'm fucking leaving.
Was he on his little micro scooter and he was like flipping the bird as he rode out of the office?
He's like, fuck you guys, I got your scripts, just like what they did for The Matrix, just like what Jet Li did to The Matrix.
Fuck you, Jet Li.
Yeah, he stole the script to The Matrix.
I hope he's listening right now. Right, there's one guy that's clearly been absent from this whole discussion. Not Joe. He's permitted. He's mucking about with levels. But one man wearing an Austin 316 t-shirt that is desperate to tell us that he thinks the game is absolutely
as we're recording this, it's WrestleMania tonight, and I'm super excited for WrestleMania.
2 people just went, oh, is it?
This is a games chat. What is your opinion on Destiny?
So I didn't pick up Destiny, I didn't play it, and I'll tell you why I didn't play it, because it looks rubbish. 3 years ago I made that decision and I haven't looked back. Every time I saw someone playing it, I didn't enjoy it. It looked like it was catering to the lowest common denomination of humour. You can do little dances. And that's even backed up in the trailer, which was released this week. There's a really funny guy who's trying to be like Deadpool. Oh, it's really stupid. Like, come on, guys, seriously.
That's what you get in most MMOs, isn't it?
Do you? I was really annoyed by that trailer. When I watched it, I was really annoyed.
Well, he wouldn't know because he's never played an MMORPG.
No, seriously,
no.
Let's come back to it though. I looked at this game and I thought to myself, Destiny, okay, you jump around and you've got jetpacks and you go pew 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 and you shoot your guns and you do the same thing over and over and over again, and it's just so boring and it's rubbish.
Do you know who voices that character, the funny one?
Oh, what, the funny one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you know that's your hero? That's Nathan Drake himself.
Oh, what is he doing that for? It's not, is it?
That's Nolan North, yeah.
Is it really?
Honestly, yeah, it is.
That trailer was so bad though, because it kept cutting back in and it was like, trying to be funny.
He was in the first one. He was just that kind of character.
Okay, yes, I didn't play it. And guys, let me tell you something as well. How were you not frustrated by this? Destiny was sold to us as a 10-year, a decade game, which was going to
Joe's turning his mic on. He's been triggered.
It wasn't sold as a 10-year game. The agreement was with Activision and Bungie that they would have a new IP for sort of 10 years. So that the deal was for 10 years, but it wasn't specifically for Destiny.
Right, okay. I mean, maybe that was a misunderstanding on my case, but, you know, let the truth get in the way of a good lie. It was meant to be a 10-year game with expansion packs throughout. It sounds like they cut content and put it back in and sold it to us.
I don't think they ever planned a game to be a 10-year game.
Guys, they did. Just Google it. It's the facts are there. So, yeah, for me... We're now 3 years into the 10-year life cycle, and guess what's been announced? Destiny 2. Oh, and not only Destiny 2, expansion pack number 1, expansion pack number 2, season pass. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a season pass. I got Battlefield season pass at the same time I purchased Battlefield, because you know you're going to get maps and you know you're going to play that game for years on end. Let me finish, but you're going to play that game for years on end. Destiny 2 has just been announced with 2 expansion packs and a season pass. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's getting fucking raw.
How does that make you feel?
Let me just... Right. So,
because
they've obviously already made the content, but now you're going to buy it.
Yeah, but
Chris is going to answer you through the table in a minute.
Right. So, the thing is, with the type of game that it is, the type of audience that it's garnering, and specifically the type of game that it is, where it's kind of like this hybrid MMO thing, that audience... loves the idea of DLC. It loves the idea of them being able to expand their game at a later point.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
I think that's why. I mean, most games you've got to understand that with a lot of games they have these DLC plans almost right from the beginning. You know, they've got a plan of what they're going to release and when. I just think it's catering to the audience. That's the only reason we're being told about it now. That's my opinion.
All I'll say is that we record this podcast and it's just my opinion. It's my opinion that I looked at that game and I thought,
you're fucking wrong.
And that's fine. But seriously, I looked at that game and I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to get it, and I haven't regretted it. That being said, Destiny 2, if they've made improvements to it and there's a bit of a story and everybody's getting it, do you know what?
You might consider it.
# funds TJ's Destiny 2 and I might get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can I just say something on the DLC there? You brought up Battlefield, which I love, and the game is brilliant, but DLC, I kind of want to say, Battlefield DLC, yeah, it's essential, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel like you get very much from Battlefield, and then I feel like something like Destiny, people are quite quick to rip on the DLC, myself included, but they don't have the resources maybe to get the game out for release to then add in these huge stories and quests. I feel like there's a lot more work that goes into the DLC for Destiny as opposed to the DLC for Battlefield, where they're like, alright, 2 stock maps, everything else stays the same.
Few new
weapons and challenges. And don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying that. I love DICE. Battlefield 1 is an amazing game, and I'm not taking anything away. But when you were like looking at both of those DLCs, and I don't know what DLC one's going to bring in winter, but I would imagine there's a lot more that comes out of them DLCs, and I feel like people are quite quick to sort of slag them off and go, oh, here we go.
That's the thing. For these type of games, the DLC is usually game changing.
Yeah, the DLC is big,
adds
man.
a
They're
lot.
adding in raids, they're adding in quests, they're adding in areas, and you can't sort of
Scoff at that.
yeah, and you can't expect them to say, oh, we want all of that with the game at launch. That's not a possibility. So that's actually a clear example where DLC is A, justified, and B, value for money. And I know that there's a lot of examples around the table where we could bring up where expansions aren't justified and they aren't worth the money. I'm not saying Battlefield's one, but I'm just saying if you looked at them side by side, you'd get a lot more bang for your buck with the Destiny DLC. So Taken King is a great example.
See, but I struggled with the Taken King when it came out because I thought it was overpriced. To be honest, I did think
It was a little bit more, wasn't it? What was it? 30?
Do you
Was
know
it
what?
£30, Jack?
$34.99.
$34.99, yeah, rather than $24.99, which
Yeah.
is a
That
stock,
included
isn't
the
it?
base game though for newcomers, did it not? Because I think I looked at that on the
I don't
store.
think it
Did it
did.
not?
No, because
Maybe
I
it was a
remember-
comedy
No, it
deal at
didn't.
some point then.
I
There was a
remember-
deal.
Yeah, I
They do
remember
tend to
looking
do
at it
deals
thinking,
to bring people
That's a
in.
pretty good price of both.
I remember looking at it and I already had the game and I wanted to get the DLC and I can't remember what it was now, but it worked out because to play the Taken King I think you had to have all the other DLC as well. So it worked out, it was cheaper, it would have been cheaper for me, someone who hadn't bought any of the DLC at that point, to buy like the Ultimate Edition, which was like 60 quid. And it was this really like, I don't know, I felt like my entry point had been denied by the fact that it was really out of my price range for what it was. You know, I had to buy everything up to that point,
Yeah.
and I waited a long
I
time
had to
for it
pay
to
a
come
lot as
down.
well because I didn't buy a season pass and I really regretted that. And then you can't get certain bits until you get else. And I was like, oh man, I've got
Yeah,
to probably
yeah.
I
spend
think
that bit of
that
money.
the reason we enjoyed that game so much is because it had fantastic gameplay.
The
But more than
gameplay,
that, it allowed you to play with your friends in a really interesting, really gripping way. I mean, a game with really good gameplay is great, but when you can use that gameplay with your mates, then it improves it tenfold. And especially the raids, which I think added some really nice
The raids
control.
made it so accessible. I mean, at the moment, without going too deep, a lot of us have just started an MMORPG, which we're going to talk about in future episodes. But there's a bit of a grind, and I forgot, you know, not playing World of Warcraft for so long, that there's such a grind to get to the point where you can actually do raids. Now, raids are a little bit more in depth in MMORPGs. I'm not taking anything away from that. But you're absolutely right, Jack. One thing that Destiny did right is it gave you that sort of risk and reward factor, but it got you to get into the point of being able to run raids without too much
Greg, for
commitment.
the benefit of myself and possibly others who don't know what a raid is, what is a raid?
So a raid is basically like, if you've not heard of one before, it's a common sort of end game activity for massively multiplayer online games where you team up as a big team, usually people that are running the highest tier gear that's possible at that point. You've unlocked your abilities in such a way that you're able to support each other, and you fight sort of waves of enemies or a very big boss that requires a certain chain of events or a certain amount of strategies to get them to take down. So it's really gelling together teamwork, and it's what a lot of people that play MMORPGs are actually wanting to do from the get-go.
And this is where we'd perhaps be seeing certain special characters who need to do specific things at certain times, and we're talking about planning, and we're talking about, look, you need to do this.
Not in every example, but Destiny was a great example, and I think one of the things, and I'll speak on Joe's behalf here, but one of the things that Joe absolutely adored about that game was when you did a raid, there was certain sequences of events that you had to do, otherwise you're going to get absolutely sort of owned on the raid, and he was sort of like somewhat of a Sherpa for us, where he'd researched some of the strategies and took us through it. I mean, you know, be modest, man. You did a good job there, so heads up to you. I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was really fun. And I liked the fact that there was, you have to do this, and we were all like literally, you know, waiting on his beck and call to what to do where, and it made it fun.
I think the best description of a raid would be that it's a really hard, quite long level that you tackle cooperatively for good high-end rewards.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's something that certainly we're going to, you know, it's not going to be the first time we talk about Destiny 2, but I think we're all pretty excited to get the little nod about that. So another game that I think Tom wanted to bring to the news today was there's been some information about Day of Infamy, is that right?
That's right, yeah. I am dropping the knowledge today for the PC folk out there who are
For that
interested.
master race.
I don't say that.
for the gaming elite out there who may or may not have heard of a game called Day of Infamy. Now, Day of Infamy is a World War II PC game, which is almost a spiritual successor to another PC game called Day of Defeat, which I think all of us have had some hands-on experience with at some point or another.
Yeah, I love that back in the day. Real into Day of Defeat. Like,
what's the premise of Day of Infamy? Just for someone that's not heard of it.
Well, Day of Infamy was actually released last week on the 23rd on the Steam store, and it was an early access title that's been fully released. And yeah, like I said, it's a World War II online game. It's got all of the classic multiplayer modes that you'd know and expect from an online shooter. So you've got your deathmatch, you've got your capture and hold points, so on and so forth. The interesting thing with this game is it was actually it started life as a mod, and it was a mod of another game by the same studio. The studio is called New World Interactive.
Okay.
And they released a game called Insurgency.
love that.
There we go. Chris has got experience with that one.
Yeah.
So
love that.
so Day of Infamy started life as a mod of Insurgency.
Okay.
So what they've done is they moved that into the early access section on Steam, and it's gone through its various versions, and it's been released as a fully fledged all singing all dancing title.
I'm looking at a couple of screenshots now. It's not.
It's a World War so it's a World War II shooter. It's got all of the classics that you'd expect. So you've got your Omaha beach landing with the pillboxes, and making your way up the beach, and maybe you're going to take the pillbox, hold it, and move on, and so forth.
What makes it different? Because I'm looking at some screenshots now, and usually screenshots look 10 times better than the game, but they aren't grabbing me that much.
Let's face it,
there's
been a bit of a should we say some focus on the future the future war variants as of late, and
oh my god, those flame effects look awful, Jack, in that picture.
Oh, come on, guys, let's not rag on it. This is the news.
Yeah, we've not played it.
No, exactly. I'm just reporting the news. I mean, look, this is news. This is a World War II game that's coming out on the PC that's getting a lot of love online. Some of my PC...
I mean, it could have good gameplay. That's why I'm saying, like, what makes it a little bit different.
If in its defence, I will say that Insurgency was never the best looking game, but the gameplay was great. It was really good.
Plus, I can quite easily fall victim to that. I'm always the first one to defend quality over gameplay, over visuals. Sorry.
Don't be a graphics whore.
I'm not. And that's
what this game brings as well is realistic, like damage. So,
okay.
For example, it's not going to take a whole clip to down a guy. It's going to have that realism.
So like Siege, then.
A little bit like Siege, yeah. And the sound. I mean, I've watched some stuff of it, and it sounds incredible as well. It's one of them real ones where you put your headphones on and turn it up and enjoy
Listen
it.
for the footsteps and
Absolutely,
be aware of the situation.
For anybody out there that enjoyed their COD 1 and 2, their Medal of Honor, I think it was called Allied Assault, the PC version, this could be one for you.
You just got a new laptop, maybe you should give it a whirl.
I'm not sure my laptop could run it. My HP 250, I don't even know what graphics card it's got, but one of the really interesting things about this game, and obviously this is what makes PC just a cut above the rest in my opinion, is the customisations side of it. So you've got this thing on Steam, and if anybody doesn't know, Steam is essentially a big games collection. It's a platform that runs them all on the PC. There's something for this game which utilises the Steam Workshop. So you can mod anything in the game, from uniforms to sounds and even maps. So let's say some users want to create a classic map from a previous game, something like Carentan stands out to me. Users can actually create that within the Steam Workshop tools themselves and release that to the general public.
Okay.
So maybe you want to make some special uniforms and some skins, you can release that. So it's fully customisable, and it's really sort of...
there's going to be someone running a bright pink uniform with a big phallus drawn on their back.
That's
what will happen.
Of course there will be. So yeah, I mean, obviously that's something that us console guys can't really have that level of customisation, can we? So
I've got a PC, I can get on this.
Yeah.
I might crack on this. I like a good first-person shooter, and especially one which adds in aspects of reality, which increases the tension of a game. I think like one of the reasons we like Siege so much is because it makes you think, unlike any other shooter, where you can run around and you can do super jumps.
Yeah.
But one bullet really does make the difference. And I really like that way of gameplay.
I think with Siege and also The Last of Us Online though is that it's really that 4v4, 5v5 when you're dead gameplay that adds the tension,
Absolutely.
God damn, I love Siege.
Just on Insurgency, Chris.
I like the fact that it's in a nice like city as well. So like it's not like a barren field. Like someone's where it's got a really nice like city look to it. I don't know what all the maps are going to be quite varied.
There is, yeah.
Good look.
Chris, they're also bringing out a game called Insurgency Sandstorm, which is coming out to all the platforms, so including PC.
Oh, really? And
Yeah.
consoles?
And
that's
all
cool.
the consoles, so that's going to be like in Iraq, sort of like going through the events of the Iraq
Yeah,
war and
I'd
stuff.
be very interested
gonna
in that
definitely check
because
that one.
do you know what I mean? When I lived at home and I could play on my dad's PC. Dad, can I go on your PC?
Don't look at the internet history. You can play it, it's fine.
It's just a pop-up.
Yeah. But yeah, when I used to, and I bought Insurgency and I played it, and do you know what? It was a really good, well balanced multiplayer game, and I loved the
Yeah.
fact that it was really realistic. It was really refreshing to play a game that when you got a headshot or when literally just a couple of bullets, and that really created the tension because you spend a lot of the time trying to be in cover, crawling around because if you got seen and someone saw you before you saw them, you're probably going to die.
I love the cutscenes as well. Like, they were really detailed. My favourite cutscene was right at the start where you had a meeting with George Bush and he was like, "Look, we need the oil," and then the Illuminati was in the background, and we were like, "Yeah, just let's go there and kill them all."
I don't remember this.
Yeah, that was in the True Believers DLC pack that I downloaded with the Illuminati triangle on the front of it.
But, they joke about that, but the insurgency did cause the Vietnam conflict. And
Okay.
also, fucking the reason we're in Iraq at the moment is because of the fucking Illuminati.
Yeah,
Like
goddamn.
Kanye West.
Yeah.
But
How many times are you going to drop Kanye West? I swear, every
I know.
podcast you mention his name.
Well, the day he stops controlling the world from his influence
You
in the
just-
fucking Illuminati is the day I fucking drop it.
You're just salty because you've not got a pair of Yeezys because they're
Fucking-
too expensive.
One day, you are going to see me dead with a gunshot to the back of my head, and you will know that Kanye West has been there.
That'll be the day. That's what I'm hoping for.
Tom, those games sound really interesting.
Yeah,
I'll
so
be honest with you.
that's come out and it's, as I said, it's creating a lot of buzz within the PC community, so check it out. That leads quite nicely into our next topic really this week, was we had a leak of the next Call of Duty entry,
We did,
which
yeah.
is going to be, World War II.
It's a real shame that Nick isn't here with his soundboard so he could do a tumbleweed as we talk about Call of Duty.
Do you know what? I'm really pumped for this. I'm so ready to go back to World War II on this generation of consoles. Super realistic graphics.
You know what? I slag it off because I hated all the last Call of Duty.
Did you really?
But I am open. I'm open to a World War
Yeah,
II.
Jack, I'm absolutely with you because I didn't enjoy Ghosts, Infinite Warfare,
Oh,
so on
hated
and
all
so
of
on. But the last one I truly enjoyed was probably Black Ops 1. But
That was
I
still
played
shit.
one. I played one. I think Black Ops was really good. But
yeah, Black Ops was good.
I mean, it's not. It didn't. I was really into Battlefield at the time, and I'm not going to talk about that game too much. But I think one of the really good World War II experiences I had. I think it was a Call of Duty Big Red or something along those
Oh,
lines.
the console one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that game.
Yeah, the last fully fledged World War II one was obviously a World at War,
Yeah.
which was which we've spoken about previously. So yeah, this one actually got leaked via the artwork for it. So there's been a leak online of a Call of Duty poster, and it's really low res, and it didn't actually look real at first, did it? But
A
it's
lot of
just
people
got
thought it was Photoshopped.
yeah, and it's just got Call of Duty W2, and it's got some Allied soldiers on the beach, which looks like Omaha, sitting behind like the tank traps.
People are acting like, oh yeah, good for them for bringing it back. Like, do you know what I mean? Did they have any other choice? They rinsed the franchise. They made it absolutely pony. They were like, "Ooh, jetpacks in space and mech warriors," and everyone was like, "This is crap. You can't do this properly."
Yeah, I tell you what.
Now they look at Battlefield 1, which is absolutely owned, and they're just copying them. And yeah, okay, I know World War 2 is
that
another
can't
one.
be the case. They haven't copied them. I think we've.
I'm not saying they're copying them, but I'm saying they're looking at their success and how everyone's probably dropped off all their platforms, and they had no other viable
Yeah.
alternative
Well, this
other
one-
than doing a World War II game, in my opinion.
This one's being made by Sledgehammer Games, and if anybody's familiar with the COD sort of franchise, it's made by every entry is made by Sledgehammer, Infinity Ward, and Treyarch. So they almost do it in threes.
Which ones have Sledgehammer done before? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh God, you know what? That's really embarrassing.
That's
I don't.
right.
I think.
I didn't think
Oh,
they'd
mate.
done any. Or
No, they
I've not
have.
followed
They
it for
helped-
ages.
they
When
helped.
I was there, it used to be Infinity Ward and Treyarch when I was into the series.
Sledgehammer helped with the
and you'd wait for
multiplayer
Infinity
on one
Ward
of
to
them.
do
They,
one.
okay.
they used to do the multiplayer.
They used to do the
Here's
multiplayer one.
what I think they should have done. Is I reckon they should have doubled down on the future. Don't just go like 100 years in the future. Go thousands of years in the future. What would you just,
Moonraker.
microorganisms created by nanomachines, not shooting lasers, but shooting like thoughts and like plasma beams.
Do
And
you
just,
know?
like,
Oh, that would be hard trying to explain that to 14-year-olds with a hard-on and a copy of like a low-res porn magazine.
The thing with Call of Duty for myself is I feel like that franchise is completely exhausted itself. Like for example, Jack just mentioned Infinite Warfare, and I can't help but think if that title was exactly the same as what it is, but just didn't have Call of Duty attached to it, I think I'd have loved that game. I think I'd have really enjoyed it. But the fact that Call of Duty is such an exhausted franchise, I just find it really, really hard to get excited about anything Call of Duty. But, having said that, if this one is going back to World War II, perhaps that'll rekindle a flame. You know, that's got my interest more than Call of Duty normally would have around this time
Absolutely.
of year. When
Call of Duty's become a bit of a victim of its own success in that they're releasing the yearly titles and they're probably having to pump them out, which is why they've got 3 different studios working on a game at a time.
Absolutely.
Another thing that's interesting as well that people don't realise is that Infinite Warfare was one of the top 10 best-selling games last year.
Which is ironic, because weren't they unpleased with the sales of it?
They really weren't happy because it underperformed its predecessor Black Ops 3 by almost kind of like every quantifiable objective, really. They tried to hide a lot of the Activision.
That game went on
They
sale
weren't
really
happy.
quickly as well. I mean, you can pick it up for like £15 now, the deluxe edition, which carries the original Modern Warfare game, which I've been very close to picking up on
Yeah, the
multiple
original
occasions.
remaster.
Is available for £40 now.
And I always think they did themselves a disservice by not just selling the original remaster. I think they were worried that people were just going to buy the remaster and not the actual game. I think
Which
that's
to
why
be
they
fair,
did it.
I would. Yeah,
I would as well.
Jack, what you
Would have
do
made
is
the money.
The deluxe edition of Infinite Warfare carried the original Modern Warfare, and it basically was a PSN code, but it would only load the game if you had the disc in, to avoid people just getting the code, selling it. That's now available for about $39.99, which I've been extremely close to paying for, but I'm only paying for it for the original game.
Yeah,
It's one that I've
me and
played
Tom are pretty
completely.
keen to get it. That's
Yeah,
true.
so once if and when they ever sold it separately at around, I'd say, a $17.99 price point, I would be all over that.
Don't you think that's a testament to how ridiculous and big that franchise has got now? The fact that it can sell like half the amount of its predecessor and still be the best-selling game of the year. Like,
Absolutely.
Well, because mindless mongs will buy it every year.
They're just a monster, aren't they? They are
And
just.
don't cut this, because people will just go and buy that game every year without not even looking at what's involved in the game.
Yeah.
They'll go, yeah, I'll go and buy it.
I mean,
I'll
Joe,
Call
we're
of
looking
Duty.
at you.
some people will buy that game.
He's like looking so surprised. No, Joe doesn't get it every year. I'm just saying there are a lot of people out there that will.
There are, and I think that's fine. You know, there's a lot of people that every year they'll buy 2 games. They'll buy the new Call of Duty, they'll buy the new FIFA, and that's all they'll buy.
But hey
you
guys,
know,
just to bring this back full circle, the reason that they buy it every year is probably based on the foundations which these original World War II games and especially Modern Warfare created. It was that strong entry, them entries that actually carries the weight of Call of Duty, and you expect something when you get Call of Duty.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, Jesus, if you're buying the game every year, go and have a look round. There's so many fantastic games out there. There's so many great indie games. Go and support them. Otherwise, we're just going to end
Unfortunately,
up.
not everybody's as well informed as
Well,
informed
listen
as
to
us, are
Digital
they?
Escapism and you'll
Yeah,
be well
listen.
informed.
Beautiful boyfriend. And no, that's
Yeah,
what we
we've
need
come
to be
to that.
playing.
Right, moving on. There's another big story. I mean, this is literally just going to be a bit of a news episode today because there's so much. Red Dead Redemption 2. We've spoke about it before. There is now a release date, is that correct?
Well, what happened this week was that a leak occurred. Well, not a leak actually. A retailer published it on their website,
It's a
as
week
they
of
would do
leaks.
for the yeah.
It's like a boiler Joe's visited.
He's an awful plumber. And
Mario. Yeah, so this week, base.co.uk had it on their website, and they actually included a release date of September the 26th, 2017,
Sounds about
Nice.
which one is hugely ambitious from Rockstar. I mean, that's got to be pushed back, right?
yeah, without a doubt, I can't see that sticking.
Well, they're going to be fighting with Destiny 2. I think that's probably not the
Oh,
best
really?
idea.
Oh, well, I won't be
if
picking up
Destiny's
Destiny,
coming out on the 8th
definitely
of September and Red Dead's coming out on September the 26th,
Yeah.
you're going to need to drop at least
They'll struggle.
70, 80 quid for Destiny 2 in the UK and another 50 quid for Red Dead. And
I
there's
would
not
pay
many
for my
people.
Destiny 2 pre-order.
Have you?
Oh,
have you done
Please
that
tell me
already?
you haven't bought one of those rucksacks.
Yeah, the £250 one.
No, you haven't.
Yeah.
You absolute mug. I hope you're going to put it on eBay because the thing looks hideous.
Yeah, it's like a
Okay,
thousand.
that's
I
fine.
think,
Put it on eBay then.
Myself and Chris were talking last week because we're actually friends outside of this room.
What
I
friends?
don't
What
know. I
friends?
mean, Greg's a bit of a jerk, but
True.
I ain't gonna deny
I think
that.
something which is worth mentioning, which I haven't actually seen bounded around on any sort of news sites or any conversation really, and for me this is absolutely huge when you think about Red Dead, right? Is let's think about what this is. This is going to be Rockstar's first release on the next generation.
Yeah.
That's massive. I can't even just think about that for a minute. This is their first game that they have created for this generation of consoles.
They did bring out Grand Theft Auto 5.
They did bring out Grand Theft Auto 5, but that was a remaster. So let's remember, Grand Theft Auto 5 was originally built from the ground up for the PlayStation 3. Just think about all of the Rockstar entries into their generations and how they've changed, dare I say, the industry, but how they've actually changed the modern face of gaming every time they release a game. This is their first time they're making a game from the ground up for the PlayStation 4,
well, I
Xbox
think it'll
One.
probably still use the same engine that Grand Theft Auto, because they spent so much money on the
Of
engine.
course
Because
they
if you
will.
look at how good Grand Theft Auto looks at on PCs now, there's even like a hyper-realistic mod that you can download that literally smokes PCs
Absolutely,
out.
but just seriously consider all of the extra processing power, all the things that they've learned over the years. I mean, I'm so excited, and I'm just going to make a bold claim now. I think this game, Red Dead Redemption 2, is going to change the game of open world. I think it's going to be an absolute game changer, and I will stand by that when that game comes out. I think it's going to be absolutely phenomenal.
I think that when it does come out, it's going to have a lot of legs. I think they're going to put a lot of effort into the multiplayer.
It's going to be like a centipede.
I think coming off of the back of GTA Online and everything they've done with that, all the lessons I've learnt there, I'm expecting this game to keep me engaged well into the years on, you know.
Well, we spoke about that. You just triggered a memory there. We spoke about that, didn't we? And we spoke about how much they'd learnt about the online multiplayer. So let's hope that when it does come out, that a lot of the features that they're promising are there on launch. That's a big thing for them.
I'm going to say it. I reckon that this Red Dead Revolution, whatever it's called, Red Dead 2, I reckon it's going to have the best horse physics in the world. And I reckon
Black Beauty.
I reckon that because they're going to be so good, they're going to include genitalia on these horses, which is what we've all wanted from Red Dead. I know that I have. I know that Greg has. He sometimes texts me at 3 a.m. Chris has got a tattoo that just says, you know, Red Dead horse love, right on his lower back.
On his lower back, tramp stamp.
He's got love tattooed on one knuckle and horse tattooed on the other knuckles, because he's got an extra knuckle on one side.
A lot of people have their girlfriend's name tattooed on them. Chris has just got Shergot, like.
Seabiscuit.
No, but
don't Google that as a term.
Soggy Seabiscuit.
Come on.
I do listen. That game's going to be great. That game's going to be fantastic. I don't think there's anyone thinking that it's going to be. I mean, if it doesn't, it's going to be very disappointing, because obviously we've all got such high standards for a Rockstar game. Every Grand Theft Auto 4 was a little subpar, but Grand Theft Auto 4 was still a great game. And I think that we're going to be in for a real good treat.
It's going to be huge.
Right, chaps. Moving on from horse phalluses and Chris's lower back tattoos that no one needs to know about. Right, For Honor. There's going to be a boycott for For Honor. Now, we spoke at length a couple of episodes back when we all got For Honor. And also as a result of that, a lot of us are now no longer playing the game. And it does show that there's a really high drop-off rate on For Honor. So the boycott, I understand, Chris, is mainly in relation to the price of obtaining all of the kind of in-game items and things like that, isn't it? With regards to
that is a big part of it,
microtransactions.
Greg. That is a big part of what's going on. I think the general idea behind it, after a few hours scouring through the dregs of Reddit, what seems to be the general consensus is the community doesn't feel like Ubisoft is listening to them. They feel like they have these grips and gripes with the game.
I wonder where they got that impression from. Ubisoft not listening to the fans?
So what they've actually done, they've actually on Reddit organised a boycott. So I think it's on the 3rd of April. What's today? Is it the 2nd? Yeah, so it'll be tomorrow.
So it's a subreddit as well, is it? That hosts all this chatter
that's
about
right.
it.
Yeah, that's it.
I bet that has all the fun people in the internet. That subreddit, doesn't it? I can imagine it now.
Yes, it does. I'm a member. I'm not. I don't have a Reddit. But yeah, so that seems to be the idea. They which is, do you know what? This is really cool. Actually, it's a really cool gaming activist thing.
Yes, no, I agree with that.
To actually band together in a community and like the game enough that you're staying with it and you're holding your community, but you're also kind of at odds with the developer. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think if they're not listening to the community, this is a good way for Ubisoft to take notice.
Here's the thing, I agree that it's probably a good thing if you're that big a fan of the game and you disagree with something that they're doing that's ruining your enjoyment of it, to do something like this. I don't think necessarily it's the developer's choice to make this call on the DLC. I reckon it probably comes from publishers or money men who are like, we love the game, we love all the things you've added onto it, but listen, if you want to sell this game, then we need to talk about your financial plan, and that's where we're going to come in and we're going to make changes to your game specifically.
Well, hopefully they've...
Obviously I can't say for definite, but that's just what I feel it's going to be. But
hopefully they've consulted you first as the star of Full Card Fights. Hopefully they've come to you first and foremost.
I made one video, yeah, but...
Did you lose? Just like...
No, I won.
Did you win it?
I'm not going to put up a video where I lose.
Yeah, no one does that. Right, so that is effectively, red line below it, that was the news for this week. A huge week for us.
I've got some other news.
Oh, good.
I haven't got any injuries and I feel 100% now.
Hey!
I haven't got any tonsillitis.
The man who's always injured.
I know. I guess what?
Feeling good and proper today.
Guess what, viewers? I have got nothing wrong with me whatsoever. Can you hear it in my
They're not
voice?
viewers, Tom.
They are viewers. They're always going to be viewers.
Unless they're on YouTube.
I've been walking fine. I can talk fine, and I'm just 100% firing on all cylinders.
He is a real boy today.
Let's not say that there's nothing wrong with you.
So, moving over to Mr. Folkart here on my right, Mr. Jack. We want a hands-on for Mass Effect. So, before we get to the hands-on, I just want to say one thing.
Oh, God.
And I'll be very, very brief.
Oh, no.
The whole debacle... that person outside's like, hang on, Greg, I want to hear this. Listen, all I want to say is the whole debacle regarding calling out individual members of a development team for flaws in what is essentially an algorithm. So let's just break this down very, very quickly. People are upset and laughing at some of the facial features and animations in the cutscenes. The reason that's happened is because there's an algorithm that works out the most popular choices of the game. Because there is so much content that needs to be sort of made for that game, the algorithm works out the least likely choices and then a computer program will edit them post. Okay, and that's what's happened. Is it right? I don't know. Is it what's happened? Absolutely. So people calling out an individual person, a female member that's part of a team, is absolutely wrong. And if you're anyone that thinks that's a good idea, don't listen to this podcast because you're not a nice person. And I wanted to get that out of the way because I think, again, a little bit like this whole Gamergate thing that happened a while ago, people just love to pick a victim. So, you don't celebrate one individual person when a game's great, you celebrate the whole team. So when there's a problem with a game, it's not one individual's fault. That's all I want to say on that, Jack. But moving on, with regards to hands-on, what are your thoughts with the game, my friend?
Well, I mean, you brought it up. Let's dive right into the big issue which a lot of people had with the game is the visuals. I will say that at the start of the game, it is unfortunate that the facial animations do just really take you out of the story and the adventure that you're about to go into.
And I can understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game's going to have absolutely, you're right, specific people shouldn't be targeted, but there is a problem. I'm not going to deny that there wasn't a little problem with the faces. It does really take you out at the start of the game. However, as you progress through the game, it kind of becomes like a second nature, and it becomes less and less of an issue for yourself. With the only unfortunate, like really specific times where the facials kind of spasm out, and like, oh, that kind of ruined that moment for you. I mean, I have a list of pictures of the faces.
I have seen these.
Yeah, these are ones that I've taken personally.
They're very derpy. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, some of these are a little bit. Yeah, I understand that. All I'm saying is you shouldn't pick an individual
I
out.
think it's more noticeable because of the game type and because it relies so heavily on your immersion.
Yeah.
Anything that it does that slightly breaks that will be highlighted.
Yeah, it'll take you
absolutely.
out. What are your thoughts on the gameplay, though, Jack?
I'm going to tell you, my biggest thing about Mass Effect is for every one good thing that it gives you, it seems to take something away. So whilst you do get the bad facial features that can sometimes take you out of it, the horizons and the actual like places that you visit are really beautiful and like they're really good looking, and all the planets have got some real strong differences to them that really like separate them from each other. I mean, this isn't No Man's Sky where everything's the same but slightly different. and they really do look lovely, and like just going exploring. The only problem I had was that they were a bit boring, whilst they were very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like the vistas, they were a bit boring.
Have you enjoyed it
stuff
as much as the first three that people will always have a favourite from the first three?
No.
What's missing from it that those three had?
I played all the first three Mass Effects, and I really enjoyed them. I have a bit of an issue where I really liked the ending to Mass Effect 2, but I really loved the beginning and mid part of Mass Effect 3. It's just a shame that Mass Effect 3's ending kind of was vague and didn't really reward all the choices you had made up until this point. But yeah, it's not doing it for me, which is unfortunate. It's not doing enough for me like Mass Effect 1, 2 and 3 did. I think I really enjoyed Mass Effect 3, the beginning of the main story, because it made it look like, okay, we're about to lose. We're literally inches from losing now. We need you to do something to bring this back, because we're on the bad side of this situation. But if I can go into the gameplay,
Go ahead, please.
The shooting and the guns, they're all there for you. They got some really interesting new guns that really work differently to others. I just recently got a gun where it shoots lightning. It's a shotgun that shoots lightning, and it's really enjoyable. And the jetpack really adds to how you manoeuvre around the map. There are some really good characters, not characters. There are really good creatures that you fight against that really change the way you move around the map. And because you've got this jetpack, you're more adaptable to how they're going to attack you. There's one specific creature that glows up and can fire a beam straight through your defence.
Okay.
So if you're hiding behind some like bricks or some hiding behind a wall, there will be a light that beams up at you, and you've got time to dodge out of the way. So you're constantly on the move. You're constantly getting behind cover, falling back, or getting to the wings. The only problem I had with the gameplay is the automatic cover. So where on the other Mass Effect you push a button and you go into cover, this one puts you into cover automatically whenever you have your gun out and you move towards a wall. And there's quite a few times where I get killed or like get wounded because I'm not properly in cover, or I forget to get my gun out before I run to the wall. So like there'll be a cutscene and monsters will arrive, and I'm like, okay, I've got to get to that wall. I'll get to that wall, and I'm just not in cover because I forgot to pull my gun out, and I end up getting shot a couple of times. But I mean, yeah, the gameplay is still really fun. Then you got the characters. The characters are, I have to say, a little disappointing. I think that the aliens look great again. I mean, the aliens have always looked great in this game franchise, but they also seem to be very much linked within their own self-created stereotypes, with probably the exception of PB, the Asari. So you got the Asari, which are like kind-hearted, all-female race. The Krogan, who are like the world's biggest dickheads, and they're the kind of people. They're the kind of people that, if were humans, they would wear tap-out tank tops, or maybe like Austin 316 t-shirts.
That sounds like me.
Yeah. Then you got the Turians, who are like serious teacher types, and you got the Solarians, which are just a bunch of fucking nerds. And there's very little conflict.
Bunch of nerds.
There's very little conflict in like the group you have. There's definitely some. I remember just in like Mass Effect 2 and all of the Mass Effects where there was like some really like great decisions that you had to make, and like some really tough decisions, and lots of people had different feelings about each other. Like the Solarians hated the Krogans, and the Krogans hated the Solarians for wiping them out. There was one point in the conversation where this Krogan who newly joined your team was like mouthing off and goes, "We should deal with them the way that Krogans deal with everyone." And then this woman comes up and goes, "Oh, what, we should deal with them like Krogans, yeah? We should nuke our own nuke our own planet and wipe our own people." And I was like, "Oh, fucking hell, that was really harsh." And the Krogan just leans back and goes, "Fair enough." And just no conflict or fight whatsoever.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen in real life, would it?
I mean, there are some good points in the game. I mean, there are some really good moments of dialogue that you have, but I mean, I'm kind of let down by the dialogue mainly throughout the game, and it's quite disappointing.
Can I
I
ask
was
you a
really looking
question?
forward to the game. Yeah, go for it.
If I was to say to you, shall I go and buy this game today at full price?
Yeah.
What would you say to me as a friend?
No.
No?
No, I mean...
What about if it was half the price?
What? Yeah, I probably would buy it for half
Jack,
the price.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What would you give it out of 10?
I'm not a big fan of numerical values, but I do understand how they help people. I would give it a 7. So, because there are really good parts to the game, and there are really good, interesting, beautiful aspects, especially when you're in a new planet exploring it and you're getting into a fight. It's just a shame that some of the best aspects of the Mass Effect series, the dialogue and the conflict and some of the choices, just seem to it's not that they're not there. It's just that they seem to be a lot sparser than in the other entries.
I understand what you're saying. So basically, to summarise, really, it's not better than its predecessors, and it's certainly a game that isn't, a good game, but it's probably maybe not worth paying the full price at release. But maybe if you see it in a sale, it's probably worth picking up and having a little playthrough.
No, I mean I've read things and people are saying the same kind of similar thing, but I will say this that I absolutely love about the game, and I love this about Mass Effect 3 is the multiplayer. I've got a certain group of friends who we love playing the old Mass Effect multiplayer with, and it's a great laugh.
I've already told you this. You don't have any friends other than us. Stop lying.
Well, they're not friends, but they're ghosts of people that have passed away. But no, I mean, there are definitely aspects that could be improved upon, but it's a good game.
So would you say then, in terms, looking at the other older ones, would you say this one feels like it's a more passive experience? Like in the old ones, you're right at the centre of it all, isn't it?
That's the thing. It's more passive. Like on the old ones, it's like you're right in the middle of this big mission, or it's all coming to an end.
Yeah.
On this one, you've basically just been sent out to the deepest, farthest parts of space, and they're like, you've got to set up a colony and you've got to live in.
Around,
and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah. There's no really stress. There's nothing chasing me down. In Mass Effect 3, you had to move your stuff and you had to move people around because the fucking enemies were on your back 24/7, and you're like slugging it out. But and it's a shame. I knew that wasn't going to be there. There wasn't going to be that constant threat, but. The game does certain things really well, but I just feel a little let down by the character interaction, some of the dialogue choices that they make, and just really some mild gameplay with the automatic cover.
So I think the final word on the game, what I seem to get from it, and I think I said this earlier, was that it's not a complete disaster.
No, it's not a complete disaster. No way.
But it's not the reinvigorating fresh start that the franchise was hoping for.
It's not the game that fans were expecting as well, I think, to be honest with you. So, right, moving on, Jack. Thanks so much for that. I really appreciate that. It was really detailed, and I'm sure anyone that hasn't got the game yet that's considering picking up will probably get a lot from what you've just said about Bud.
You're welcome.
So we're going to move on now. We've got a few comments. So we've got a few people that have commented on a lot of the posts that we've put out, more than we can mention today, but we're going to pick up a couple. A lot of these comments I don't think you guys have read because you don't bother to do anything on our social media. It's all just me doing all the work all the time.
That's what we agreed. You would do the work.
Too many chefs spoil the brew.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so there's one about our last episode where we spoke about the zombies. Do you remember our feature episode that we started?
Yeah.
No.
I'm surprised you remember it, Greg. You was half cut.
I vaguely remember. I have visions of us all having a fight afterwards. Clarice Jamie Manor. I hope I've said that all right. She said, a little too much Dead Island slander for my liking. I realise I'll be in a nursing home still waiting for Dead Island 2, but I still replay the franchise at least once a year. It's one of my favourites.
I'm sorry.
Did we slag it off too much?
It was probably me, to be fair, and I do apologise, but if this means anything to you, I love the idea and the concept behind Dead Island. I just think Dying Light is exactly the same concept, just with a hell of a lot more polish on it.
You see, he apologised.
I know, it takes a big man to apologise. You don't have to apologise, by the way. These are people's opinions.
I know, and that's mine.
They're like arseholes, everyone's got one. But some are more valid than others. We've got another comment from Daniel Jones. What do you guys think about trophy/achievements? Do you think they add more to a game, or do you view them as pointless and no need for them?
I used to, when I first started playing video games, I used to really enjoy them. I think it's because I had more time when they first came out. Like I used to obsess about platining a game, and I platinumed the original Batman Arkham, which was an absolute nightmare. It took me so long.
I did that on Xbox 360.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Riddler trophies.
Oh, the Riddler ones are hard.
But my Christ, I just wouldn't have the time now. It seems that they mean less to me now because I don't have the time. I reckon
I
the
feel like
less
they
time you
work
have,
better
the
on the
more.
Xbox 360. Is that just me? Like on an Xbox, the achievements I always felt were a little bit better than on a PlayStation.
I prefer them on the PlayStation.
I prefer
without
trophies.
trying to say that.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's because it's got like a score attached to it, so I'm like
Yeah,
rank,
yeah.
I don't know, 14 or something.
I don't know enough about Xbox to really comment, but I always really liked my trophy.
Yeah, I like the trophy.
I liked the idea of having a set amount of platinums, and that's how I judge myself as a man.
I don't care about them anymore though.
No,
Like,
I'm like
I'm
you,
in
Jack.
your camp. I used to be like,
Yeah,
yeah,
same
we'll get
as
all
that.
this. Now I'm just not bothered. Doesn't bother me in the slightest now.
Yeah, I'm completely indifferent to them, but
Yeah, same here.
I'd rather have them than not have them, because I think for those gamers out there that, you know, are anal about, you know, completing a game, you know, they like that sort of thing, and I think, you know, if they're there, then that's great.
One of
you
the
know?
cool things about trophies is when a developer puts in sort of like an Easter egg. So let's say you're doing something in a game a little bit off the beaten track, a little bit different, and then a trophy pops up. And I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but something where, I don't know, maybe you kill someone who's meant to be in your team and a trophy pops up saying betrayal or something similar to that.
Yeah.
Betrayal.
You get some really funny ones like that, and similar to sort of Jack really, I will only go out of my way to platinum or get all of the trophies for a game that I really love. So yeah, that's kind of my stance on
Speaking
it.
of them Easter egg trophies, just quickly, there's a really, really good one in Metal Gear Solid 3 on the Substance version that come out
okay.
on the thingy, because there's one bit where, who is it, Ocelot's like unconscious on the floor.
That's right, yeah.
Near
That's
the
at the
beginning,
start,
and
yeah.
you can kill him, and if you kill him, it ends and you get an achievement time paradox.
Time
I think,
paradox.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, that's funny.
that's a great one.
Snake. There's another comment from Tom Clark. I had to Google this.
I love you, Tom.
How about friggin' Rock Howard being added to KOF 14 roster?
King of Fighters.
No. Oh, you've ruined it. I was gonna see if any of the guys even knew what we were talking about.
I knew what I've heard of King of Fighters.
Sorry,
I get the abbreviation. I
Yeah.
knew that it was King of Fighters, but I've not played one of them games.
So-
But they look like Street Fighter to me, or similar.
According to this is big news. King of Fighters fans can't contain their excitement over a potential leak pertaining to the 14th numbered
Let's
game in the
see, got a picture of
series. A photo shows Rock Howard on King of Fighters character selection screen,
Let's have a look.
and apparently the creator's gone mad or something. There's a picture of him. He just looks like another generic Japanese guy with grey hair.
Oh
It
my
seems
God,
like a
he
bit
looks
of
so
a
handsome.
niche thing to me. Like, if you like King of Fighters, you're probably all over this and really into it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you don't, then you've not really had much to do with it.
Have you guys heard
No,
about
I prefer proper fighting games like WWE and proper wrestling where
That's
it's
not proper
100% not scripted and the outcome isn't predetermined. I prefer proper fighting
Oh,
like
This
that.
isn't scripted.
It's
This
been
is just like
sarcastic.
a. Oh, okay, all right.
I was poking fun at myself.
Oh, I see. I see.
The two people at home are laughing themselves silly. Another WWE reference.
Yeah.
Classic Tom.
brother.
That's about all we've got time for today around the comments. If you want a chance to be featured in our next show, head over to our Facebook or head over to our Twitter, DE_podcast, or our website, digitalescapism.co.uk, and send us an email, and we will feature your comments every week, as long as they are
Oh, hey
coherent.
Greg, can I just say, I would really like people to leave us a comment, maybe subscribe, or leave a review for us.
Yeah, go
That'd be
ahead.
fantastic.
Do that. Head over to all your great podcast apps. And do subscribe, because that's the best way to get our shows, the best quality. And if you feel like leaving us a review, it is a really good way of us getting some feedback about things that we can work on, tweak and improve, as we're learning every episode we do, aren't we, guys? We're learning and picking up bits and going forward, really.
Yeah.
Okie doke. Well, listen, I think we're going to wrap up there now, guys. Thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you for spending some time with us on the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed what we were chatting about. Just remember, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, search Digital Escapism Podcast, and you can find us online at digitalescapism.co.uk. And please, obviously, if you want to be featured on the show, drop us a comment, send us an email, we'll shout you out. If there's anything you want us to talk about, or if you want to tell us that we're talking complete shit, then by all means, chuck that in a comment. We're happy to hear that feedback. Have a great day, guys, and we'll speak to you soon.